Hello and welcome to episode 63 of the Spotlight Games podcast. I'm your host, Patrick, and joining me, as always, is my sweet dumpster boy to talk about Spider-Man 2, the New Horizon games. Maybe there's a Last of Us 3 out there. Let's kick it over to Cayman and say, hey, what's up, Cayman? How we doing?
I'm doing great, Patrick. Thanks for having me on. I've always wanted to be here. That's what you always say on the other podcast, because apparently you're never there. So
it's just a fun little joke. It's a fun little, the podcast
a little
that
gag.
I'm on. Fun little gag. Gagged and gooped. Because I'm on the show 95% of the time. So what's a fun little joke to say? I'm never there, but to say, you know what I mean?
That's fair.
That's fair. Cayman.
Yes,
I have a feeling that today's show is going to get weird, and I'm excited about it.
Oh, is it going to get weird, Patrick?
Maybe. I have kind of a weird vibe. I just ate some Indian chicken wings.
Oh,
some Nandori chicken wings. And no, tandoori, not Nandori. I misspoke.
What about Andori?
Ooh,
it's from the Star Wars chicken wings.
The Star Wars chicken wings, the Star Wars show that you still haven't watched. But I have a feeling that we're gonna get weird, and I'm ready to get weird. But we have a whole lot of video game stuff to talk about because this is the Spotlight Games podcast, where each week we spotlight the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. You can get it by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Spotlight Games Pod, or by searching for Spotlight Games in your favorite podcast app. And hey, you can be on the show by tuning in as we record live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time, which is what's happening right now on twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod. So be sure to follow us there so you're notified when we go live, so you can be part of the conversation. Cayman, as of recording right now live, it's Tuesday, December 20th. And you know what Tuesday means? Save Trash Cinema, the podcast. Trashmas is on its way to a close because Christmas is right around the corner.
It's true.
Tell the folks at home what we got cooking up this week.
Actually, Patrick, is it really hot in here?
Oh, it's so warm.
Is it? I think. Hold on. It's just really hot in here. I just gotta. Get this.
Look at that.
Look at this. I just gotta. Hold on. Let me. Get myself ready for some Trashmas talk, baby.
What is that? War on Christmas Veteran. Wow.
Yeah.
That is.
Boys, it's hard out here. All right. I got my Miller.
You got some Copenhagen over there? You got a dip in?
Got my dip in. Got my nipples right here.
Wow.
So where there's nipples.
That I am befumbled. This is not something that I knew was happening. This is news to me. What does that say? Christmas?
Where's my belly button? Oh, nope, there it is.
What does that say? Christmas life.
Yeah, bro.
Xmas life.
I'm a War on Christmas veteran, Patrick. And let me tell you, sir, today released the last episode of Trashmas. And we covered Silent Night, Deadly Night, my personal Trashmas favorite. And let me just prime up the audience by telling them this. I got multiple text messages this morning, Patrick.
All
of them being like, holy hell, this is the grossest episode that you guys have ever done. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? They're like, this episode was nasty. You guys were nasty on this episode. And I can't disagree, Patrick.
I mean, they don't call them the video nasties for nothing, Cayman.
It's true. And let me tell you, I would tell you, but this is our more toned down show where we don't talk about the disgusting stuff we do on SCC.
Yeah.
Honestly, the episode is fucking hysterical. It is also very gross. We get naughty.
We talk a lot about snowballing, which if you don't know what that is and you're of age, go look it up. I didn't know what it was. I learned what it was live on air. And of course, when I learn something like that, I'm gonna lean into it. Cayman.
Yes.
I'm honestly, I'm like speechless about your look right now. I really was never expecting this.
I'm sorry. Do you want to see more?
Yes, actually, I do. Wow. This is one of those ones, folks, where if you're listening, if you're driving your car, you're delivering your UPS packages for Christmas, you got to pull over, go to the YouTube link in the description of the podcast episode, might I add. The link to our YouTube videos are always in the description of the podcast. on your favorite podcast app.
You want to know something really funny about this whole thing?
Hmm.
You know where I got this shirt? My
Walmart.
father-in-law.
Oh, wow.
My father-in-law gifted this shirt to me. The thing was, he gifted it to me to wear last year on Spotlight. However, it showed up late. So I wasn't able to do this joke last year.
This is something that you've kept in the pocket for a year.
Which normally when I'm really excited about a joke I'm going to tell, like it'll end up slipping out eventually.
Oh yeah. You're in my circle, you're infamous for spoiling secrets.
Yeah. I'm
and
real bad at it.
the second you know it, it's like, "Ooh, here's your Christmas present. What I'm buying you."
That's
Which,
true.
by the way,
yeah.
Hold, please.
We'll hold. I'm holding. Patrick is walking away. Patrick is sneaking back over. You could probably hear him fumbling around in the darkness.
This week, let's just talk a little bit more before we jump into the show.
Yeah.
This week, my Christmas gift from one Cam Darty the Dumpster Boy was delivered, and I don't have it fully put together. But for our video watchers rather, I've been gifted this Nintendo Switch BMO holder where you can put your Switch into the face of BMO from Adventure Time, if you're unfamiliar, and play. And let me tell you what, this is a top fiver, folks, of Christmas gifts. Because the crazy thing is, Cayman had no idea how much I love BMO. And how much BMO is huge in the Schweigert household. We got a BMO blanket, we got a BMO tin, we got all sorts of BMO things. And here it is, my little BMO Noir.
It's funny. I was just belligerent when I purchased that, and I was just laughing my ass off. And I was like, I'm getting this present for Patrick. I sobered up the next day and was like, what the fuck?
Oh no, what have I
did
done?
you do? Where was your mind, bro? That's what I was telling myself. I was asking that question, Patrick. Glad to know apparently that I'm better like that. So
yeah,
I'm just going to keep doing it.
It seems to me that you make your best decisions when you're just hammered.
Yeah.
So,
brother, let me tell you something.
Let me tell you something, brother.
Just like slurp back my fucking high life
in your little flannel koozie.
Yes, sir. I said, I was like, do we have any like old packs of cigarettes just sitting around that I can like when I do this joke, I can have like a cigarette hanging out of my mouth. Guess what? We don't have any cigarettes, and I was not going to go buy a pack of cigarettes just for this joke. As much as I love you, and as much as I commit to the bit, not doing
#, commit to the bit. My question to you, my last question to you on this great bit before we move on and talk about what we've been playing, which is how we always start our shows here. The War on Christmas veteran hat. Is that a hat that you plan on wearing in the public?
There's been multiple occasions in which I was like, because I got this hat as a gift from Lucas.
Okay.
One of our friends, Lucas, gifted me this hat, and I was actually going to wear it to my family's Christmas last year. And Sydney was like, please, Cayman, just don't do that. It's just going to be a fight. I was like, I know you're right, but like...
But maybe I'm interpreting a War on Christmas vet in the reverse, but like if you're a veteran of the War on Christmas, you fought for Christmas, right? Or you fought against Christmas. Which one is it?
Here's the thing.
Up to interpretation?
I think it really is up to interpretation. It could go either way, Patrick. I could say that I am one of the people who says happy holidays to everyone.
Sure.
Could be one of the people that says Merry Christmas. Do you know what the truth is? I say nothing.
Yeah, you don't speak to people.
Here's the thing. I don't give a fuck about Christmas. I don't give a fuck about anyone's festive winter holidays. I just don't care.
You famously hate the winter solstice.
I famously hate the winter solstice.
Yeah,
I'm a fall guy. All right.
What Thanksgiving is your favorite?
I'm like more of a Halloween person. Thanksgiving is a little too close to Christmas for me. More of an autumn, I suppose. More of an autumn. So
Sydney Alfredo in the chat. Bah humbug on you too, or to you too, which in Christmas terms means get fucked. Cayman. So, Cayman, let's jump into the show. I want to hear about what you've been playing, and I want to talk about what I've been playing. So, Cayman, tell us and the folks at home what's been on your PlayStation these last few days, or whatever system it is you're playing.
So I guess so. Last week I was playing Ghostwire Tokyo, and I don't know. I was just like, yeah, this game's fine. But I wanted to try something out that might have been a bit more topical for our listeners, and so
Sure.
I opted to go with I opted to play Witcher 3, which I know
Mm.
came out like feels like a decade ago. Honestly, might have been a decade ago.
Yeah, let's look that up while
I don't even
you keep
know.
talking.
But the thing is, and this is very important, and why I'm playing it is because The Witcher 3 just got a next gen or a current gen or whatever this gen is that we're on in terms of consoles. It just got a new patch that dropped.
19 May 2015.
Okay, so 7 years ago, this game came out. Almost 8 years ago, this game came out. And they just released this huge patch, highly anticipated. It introduced a lot of new things in terms of content. Um, it was free. It's free for everyone. So if you
Love
have a
that.
copy of the game, you already get it. But this patch includes a lot of interesting stuff, and I was very much was like, I want to get into it, play some. I probably put about 6-7 hours maybe into it so far. So here's basically I'll give you a rundown of some of the improvements that you'll see if you want to get back into The Witcher. First, this patch includes all of the DLC. So
Awesome.
you get all the DLC included in this. So if you haven't played the DLC before, guess what? You got it. If you've already played Witcher 3, you haven't played the DLC, but you want to just play the DLC, guess what? This patch also includes the ability to jump straight into the DLC. It levels you up. It
Cool.
gives you gear that you need necessary to be able to compete in the DLC at that level that the DLC is. So you can skip playing the main game entirely. You don't get any main game quest. It'll just dump you into whichever DLC you want to do, and you just go ham. All right, so that's the first big thing. Second thing, this patch, there's two different modes. You have performance mode and you have ray tracing, which is the mode, which I just call graphics mode. I don't know, man. Call it something cooler than just ray tracing mode. So performance mode, the game is allegedly, and then there's been a lot of hubbub of back and forth, especially from PC players who feel like that this is a lie. But basically, it's supposed to be 60 frames per second native, with an upscaling with your graphics so that you have your graphics. I think they say it's basically I'm trying to think what it is, but it's like 4K, but not 4K. Like it's not native 4K. It's like upres to try to be 4K.
Sure.
There's a term for
there's
it.
a term for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you do performance mode, you can play like that. If you don't do performance mode and you go with ray tracing mode, it locks you in at 30 frames per second and you get ray tracing. So graphically, I've gone back and forth just to check to see like which one is better. And honestly, here's the thing. Even the game in its performance mode looks really good. Like the graphics are still enhanced. So it looks better than the original Witcher, which the original Witcher still looked great. However, ray tracing mode is just outrageous.
Oh, sure.
Everything like in terms of like shadows look so cool. There's like reflections on the water that match the surroundings, which is also incredible. When the sun sets, everything just looks fucking gorgeous. It looks really good. And so you can choose between the two. I'm going ray tracing mode because I don't know, like Patrick and I've had conversations where basically like for me, I don't really tell a huge difference. Patrick was like, couldn't tell a huge difference until I went back from 60 frames back to 30. So like maybe if you play your games at 60 frames per second all the time, and if you're on console, that's rarely ever happens.
Yeah.
Then like,
Yeah.
you'll probably be fine just playing in ray tracing mode. But if you're on PC, then the game doesn't work at all because you should use your PC for taxes or Excel spreadsheets where you can do that shit in like 250 frames per second. I don't know. So those are kind of like, this is like the big thing from the patch, but that's not it. There are little things that you don't notice that are completely new and are so cool. First, they've changed the camera.
Ooh.
So this is something, and it gives you the ability to change them back and forth. So what's really cool about this is the camera now is zoomed in closer, and Geralt is offset. So he's to the left of the screen now instead of dead
Cool.
center. So it's more modernized. Like you would have games like Grand Theft Auto. Well, not Grand Theft Auto, but like I think Red Dead Redemption 2 was like one big one. God of War kind of does a similar thing.
Yeah.
A lot of third person shooters will do that. You can go back to the original camera style, but this gives you like a fresh way to look at things and it feels great.
Cool.
Second thing is you have the ability to go in and alter costumes for characters so that their costumes match the Netflix show.
Oh, that's cool.
So the thing is all of the adjustments that you can do costume-wise are really cool. Here's the one thing that's not. Is I don't know if anyone ever remembers the Nilfgaardians, their armor in the Netflix show was awful.
Oh,
it looks
sure.
like dried dog turds, like just wrinkly ass dog turds. And it's like, so like they don't look very good, but you can change it on and off. So if you want like the traditional garbs, you can do that. You can make Yennefer.
So is it all or
different.
nothing? Like everyone looks like the show or no one looks like the show? Or
No, you can individually select which characters that have alternate costumes. They've also included a bunch of really cool DLC armor sets that you get free access to if you just go to a certain location a little ways into the game. Those are brand new to this one particular patch. There's a lot of brand new weapons and brand new armors that are completely optional. You can pick them up or not pick them up. It's entirely up to you, but they're really cool looking. A lot of Netflix original things like swords, armor, whatnot that is from the show is in this game. And then there's just also they've added in like a bunch of really cool new DLC story, like little side quests that are pulled
new
from
DLC or
Yes.
nude DLC?
I wish. Well, there is nudity in the game.
Okay.
So,
okay.
I
just didn't know if they were like added Geralt's dick in this game.
Shit. I mean, in theory, you can play all of Cyberpunk butt fucking naked. So
That's
I
true.
wouldn't be shocked if you could in this game too. But no, they've included a bunch of DLC that's specific to the Netflix show, and apparently
That's
some
really
pulled from the
cool.
books, from what I heard. And then those are like way further into the game. So like while you're playing, you can go on like some like bounties and whatnot that like Geralt goes on in the show. You can then do those stories too, which is really fucking cool. The game still feels great, and it just now with ray tracing looks fantastic. You can play at 60 frames, probably feels better if that's your thing, but like it's really interesting, right? Like that you can take a game that's 7, almost 8 years old and just drop a patch for it. And it's free. And then the player count has like skyrocketed once again.
Okay, I mean, everything you're saying is very concerning.
Sure.
Because now I want to go play The Witcher 3.
I know, man.
Because I never played any of the DLC. I played this game a year or two after it came out on console. So like 2016 or 2017, and loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was still new enough that the DLC was like $40 or $50, and I just didn't want to spend that. So I never played it. But now that it's apparently included in this upgrade, it's like, give me that. Tony Thomas in the chat, handsome Tony in the chat. Witcher 3, top 5 best games. Music also amazing. I don't immediately disagree with you. Like it is up there for me for sure. So I definitely this has me excited. And to hear all this new content outside of just, I would have assumed that it just looks better.
No, there's so much, and I think that's what's crazy is this is entirely free. As long as you own a copy. And the thing is, you can get a copy of The Witcher right now, like on PSN for like $10.
This is very much like OG not Cyberpunk. This is very much OG CD Projekt Red. Like
I genuinely think that the reason this is the way it is, I don't think they would have charged for the patch anyway. But I think all the new stuff that's been added in, I really think is them being like, hey guys, we royally fucked up on Cyberpunk and we lost a lot of your trust, and we understand that, and we're here to gain it back. Here's our first step towards that. And yeah, I think that that's genuinely like how this probably all shook out in the end when it was internal conversations. And to their credit though, like it's a hell of a way to win trust back is by being like, hey, here's our apology to you, is this massive like overhaul to a game that was already 10 out of 10 for a good portion of people.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what the highest rated game on Metacritic right now is, Patrick? For 2022?
Is it The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt?
It's The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt next gen.
Wow. It's not surprising. Actually, it kind of is, because Elden Ring is one of the highest rated games ever, but not as high as Witcher 3 Next Gen.
Now, if you're playing
Speaking
on
of
PC,
Elden Ring,
it sucks. So yeah, sorry.
Speaking of Elden Ring,
yeah, tell me about Elden Ring.
I've been playing some Elden Ring, Cayman, and I'm not going to go too deep because we've talked a lot about Elden Ring this year. You've talked a bunch about it, but we've not necessarily talked a lot about my perspective, other than I wasn't vibing with it. I wasn't vibing with it a few weeks ago, or I mean, not a few months ago, several months ago. I tried it again, just like, I don't know. There's so much to do and they don't tell me anything. There's not even quest lines that I can track. But today came in. I booted it back up and I played it for about an hour. And I hope that my session today continues when I play, probably after we're done recording, because I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
In this hour. I don't know what it is that changed. I think I just was like, you know what? This past weekend, I was speaking with strongest man I know. His name is Mario. And we were just talking about Elden Ring, and he was telling me some things, got my mind kind of swirling a little bit. Excuse me. And I let go, Cayman, as so often we always should. Just let go. Sure. I just let go. I ran around. I just explored. I didn't pull up my phone to see, like, what do I need to do? I didn't, do all these things. I just ran around and I found this pumpkin head man, fought him. I found these two trolls, like, carrying this giant, like, cage of some kind, followed them, opened it up, got a great axe. So I don't know. I'm gonna see how much longer I stick with it. But I finally, for the first time in the several times that I have sat down to play Elden Ring, had a good time. So we're gonna see how that goes. So I wanted a little quick update because it's something that we've been following along a little bit. But Cayman, I've been playing something else. I've finished playing something else.
That's true. You did, didn't you?
I started and finished playing something else in the time since last podcast. Although I did play it a little bit before. If Sydney's still in the chat, she was one of the few that watched this piece of content that never saw the light of day because my sound wasn't working. A game called Inscryption. I streamed it on the PC several months ago in an attempt to see if streaming would work on my laptop, and it doesn't, which is why I still haven't done anymore. But I played it on Steam Deck, Cayman. And that game is fucking awesome. Friend of the show, Jerica, last time they were on the show, told us about how much she loved Inscryption, and she wasn't wrong. That game is really special. It's awesome. So if you don't know what Inscryption is, it's out now on PlayStation, Switch. I think it's on like everything now. It's like $20, so super low price. But it is it's like a spooky card battling game. And I've learned this year that I'm big into card battlers, like Marvel Snap, one of my games of the year. Earlier this year I played Slay the Spire, which is another card battler. So I've learned that I'm very big on card battlers. But Inscryption, so it's like it has roguelike elements. So like if you die, you start over, you start building a new deck. But I have to be really careful in how I talk about it, because something that's really special about this game is all like the amount of things that are revealed throughout it, both from a story perspective and from like an entire game perspective. Like, without saying too much, this game changes multiple times.
So it's like Bulletstorm. What are you disrespecting a veteran of the War on Christmas?
Yes, I am.
Shit, son.
I'm about to spit on you. I think I would expect the Bulletstorm.
You said you're gonna spit on me. So, are we talking about snowballing, bub?
Maybe. You go listen to Save Trash Cinema, you might find out. Awful, vile behavior.
Look at me. What did you expect?
True. You are wearing another man's skin with Christmas lights wrapped all around you, and a hat that says War on Christmas Veteran. So yeah, what did I expect, really? But this game, if you have like, go watch a trailer, and if watching the trailer interests you at all, go play this game, because similar to kind of like, honestly, similar to what I said last week about Immortality, like it's doing things that I've never really experienced in a game before. Very, very different than Immortality, although there is slight overlap with Immortality.
Oh no.
But I won't say how or why. But yeah, it's a really cool game. It took me like 6-7 hours tops. And when you beat the game, there is like another mode where you can basically play like what is my favorite part of the game. You can play that like on repeat, like in a roguelike, without all the story stuff. But yeah, really, really, like if this game came out this year, it would be like a strong front runner for my game of the year.
Really?
Knowing that now that I finished it, because like Rose and I've been playing Immortality a little bit more. I won't go far in that because I talked for like 20 minutes about Immortality last week, but I'm not as high on it as I was last week. I'm still very high on it, but we've now put in another like 4 hours, 5 hours, and we hit credits at one point, and I'm like, I still don't understand like what the story is here. So I think we like accidentally triggered credits. Like I'm having some confusion with the game, which is souring my experience a little bit. But Inscryption, man, 10 out of 10.
So,
video game.
question for you, Patrick.
Yeah.
You're big into card battlers.
Yes.
Does this mean your next game is going to be Marvel Midnight Suns?
Which
is it's card based.
Yep. I almost purchased Marvel Midnight Suns yesterday. And then I remembered I hadn't bought Christmas presents for like 6 people. And I was like, nope, that'll be an after Christmas thing. But it is a lot higher on my on my pick up next list for sure.
Sure.
If I'm able to get to it before Dead Space, like I'll probably buy it and play it before Dead Space. But if I don't get around to picking up a new game before Dead Space, I'll probably play it after Dead Space, which is like mid-January. But because I'm really excited about Dead Space. But yeah, I'm knowing that it is a card battler, but like in a strategy RPG way, definitely has me more interested in that game now than I was 3 weeks ago.
Sure.
Because yeah, Inscryption, I've definitively learned I love a card battler, which I never would have expected. But because yeah, I honestly also can't stop playing Marvel Snap. But
well, fair.
Cayman.
Yes.
Does Inscryption do anything for you? Like, do you think you're going to play Inscryption?
That's a good question.
No is an acceptable answer. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm torn, right? Because on one hand, everyone seems to be really high on it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm real dumb, and things that include strategy, I'm normally very bad at. So part of me is worried that I play it, and then I just feel bad about myself.
Sure.
Because I'm dumb. Let's be honest.
What if I told you
yes,
that the card systems in this game are way simpler than Marvel Snap?
Interesting.
In that there are like 3 types of cards. And within those types, like there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of kind of differentiation, but I never like struggled with strategy in this game. I do like strategy games a little more than you do, but the difficulty with this game wasn't ever how do I outsmart my opponent. Honestly, sometimes it just came down to RNG, like random generation. Like, did I get a good draw?
Sure.
If not, well, because like with the like how in Hades you go through a room and then you like have a couple choices on what the next room would be. Sure. It has that like a similar mechanic where once you like have an event, sometimes the map will split and you'll go to a different you'll get to choose between one of 2 events. And there aren't very many event types. Like there are a lot of simplicities to this game that I think are good. And I liked that they were like that. But at the same time, like if you are concerned that it might not vibe with you, I guess the good news is it's definitely, with it only being $20, like whenever it goes on sale, at most it'll be $15.
Sure.
Throw it
No,
on your
yeah,
wish list.
I think so. I think I'll end up playing it. Yeah. I think there's the higher likelihood of them playing that before I do Marvel Midnight Suns.
Yeah.
Look, Marvel Midnight Suns sounds incredible. I had just played XCOM one time, and
Yeah.
that was bad.
I played a little bit of XCOM once as well, and it didn't vibe with me as much. So I'm hoping that the card mechanic and the Marvel aspect of it will bring me in more,
I think so.
because
Yeah, I think so too. I will say, hold on, just get this.
holding.
Apparently, on Witcher now, you can actually adjust the difficulty of Gwent,
Oh, really?
which was not something that I ever did before. Like when I played, like I really loved Gwent. I probably put like 10 hours alone just into playing Gwent. So, which is
Me too.
interesting because, like, I like, so like, I don't know, maybe Inscryption would like just absolutely hit for me. I don't know.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I did. I think that's one. I don't have a lot of time off during the holidays like most people do.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a busy beaver right now.
Busy boy, buzz.
Buzz. And yeah, I don't know. I my thing is I think like it's more so like what's gonna scratch the itch I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Because as much as I was enjoying Ghostwire Tokyo, it didn't hit the way I wanted it to. Like, whereas God of War, goddamn, that game hit for me. So, and then of course, Mike, he's finishing up Callisto Protocol. Apparently, he's run into an issue in which he can't survive.
Oh no! Did he get into one of these situations where like he doesn't have enough health to get through a thing and he's just stuck? No. Damn,
Yes.
that sucks.
From our conversation, we had a couple matches of Rocket League earlier, and he was just like, "Dude, I'm fucked. Like I'm stuck here." He's like, "I don't understand how people." He's like, "I'm playing on easy. I don't understand how people can get through this on normal." I'm like, "Yeah, that sucks." Yeah, and like so, but like I've got the sync lights now. Sid gave me my Christmas present earlier. If you haven't seen this wild, like what a sync light does, why don't you go? This is shameless plug. Go to the STC TikTok. Save Trash. It's at Save Trash Cinema on TikTok. We don't post much ever. But it did post one of the intro to Silent Night, Deadly Night with the huge sync lights up. And it'll give you just like it gives you a great example of like how this elevates your like movie watching experience to like a completely different level. So I definitely go check that out. But just like, I want to play spooky games because that's like perfect for that shit, right?
Next time you play The Witcher, film a little video with the sync lights, send it my way. I would love to see it with a video game in action.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's like a certain moment in God of War. I don't want to spoil it, but basically it's just a beautiful area.
Oh yeah, I know
like
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely, and I'm like, I really want to figure out a way to replay that moment, but it's like 30 hours into the fucking game.
Yeah,
like I want to get there again to do it with the sync lights because I can only imagine that shit would be fucking outrageous. So,
that was one of my favorite fights in that game. Cayman,
yeah.
Why don't we talk a little bit about the news? We have a few stories we're going to talk about.
Sure.
And the first one, a game that we both liked a lot this year, but not one that I think is going to go down as like one of our favorites of all time. I don't think I'm out of turn when I say that.
No, not at all.
Guerrilla Games, who they're the ones who have made the Horizon series, Horizon Zero Dawn, then Forbidden West. Last week we talked about the upcoming DLC coming in April of next year, Burning Shores, where we go to Los Angeles with Aloy. So an interesting thing. So I'm pulling from Tom Ivan at VGC here. Essentially, we kind of know what they're doing next because they kind of told us in like a really no pomp and circumstance way, which like I kind of fuck with. But so this is Tom at VGC. He writes, Guerrilla Games has confirmed it's working on an online project set in the Horizon universe. The studio has uploaded 17 job positions for a new, quote, online project, with several of the descriptions confirming that it's a Horizon game as spotted by content creator Joe Raptor. Quote, Guerrilla is looking for a lead world designer to bring the expanding Horizon universe to a multiplayer audience, end quote, reads an advert for a lead world designer role. Another job ad reads, quote, Guerrilla is looking for an experienced and passionate senior combat designer to help create a variety of machine enemies that are spectacular, challenging, and memorable to fight cooperatively, end quote. Guerrilla has long planned to expand Horizon into multiplayer, VGC understands. Sources previously said that co-op was initially planned for the first Horizon game, but was ultimately scrapped so that the development team could focus on other areas of the title. They said Sony has also been keen to include co-op in this year's series entry, Horizon Forbidden West, but Guerrilla decided to save the feature for the future project, which they believed would either be a standalone online spinoff or Horizon 3. We're also next year for PSVR 2, launching in February 2023, getting Horizon Call of the Mountain, which is kind of its own standalone experience in the Horizon world. But Cayman, so my question to you, the story actually, I didn't proofread this story. There's more to this that this story didn't mention. Let me see. I still have the story pulled up in my browser. Because I had sent it to you. I had sent you a tweet that read, Guerrilla has confirmed that it's working on a multiplayer game set in the Horizon universe and that it will feature a brand new cast and characters with a new art style. So that Tom didn't mention that in the so I'm wondering if maybe that's either been debunked or maybe I missed it in the story. I don't know. But so all of that, so that little extra color added on, let's say. What do you think about this? Like, do you think this is because earlier this year, we've talked about how PlayStation Studios, they acquired Destiny, and one of the main, not Destiny, they acquired Bungie, who makes Destiny. And one of the main reasons they acquired Bungie was to learn about their online game mechanics and how to succeed with online game business strategy, because it's something that PlayStation has struggled with at the first party level.
Yeah.
Do you think this is just like the next kind of evolution of that, or like where's your head at with this announcement of an online only Horizon game?
So it is interesting to me, right? I don't know. I feel torn because I think one of the problems I run into with this in particular is like, how does this fit within the Horizon ecosphere, right?
Sure.
The games obviously you always play normally plays one person, and it's very much about like setting traps and like kind of working around that and like basically using all of the tools in your arsenal to be able to take on these big old robot,
big old dinos, robo
dinos, right? Now there's games that I think it could pull from in terms of like what we could experience. It could be something like Monster Hunter, which, would
team
be
up with some pals, take down a Thunderjaw.
Yeah, like that would be super cool. But then part of me worries that I fucking hate Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
So like, look, I think there's an entire audience for Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is just not for me.
Yeah.
Just don't really vibe with those games. I tried really hard. I tried super hard when they released what was it? The first one that ever came to PlayStation.
Monster Hunter World.
There you go, yeah. And so I tried really hard. I put about 30 hours into that game, and I was just terrible. I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't get into it. So I guess if they dumbed it down a little bit, or if they weren't just so expecting to be like, hey, you need to understand what Monster Hunter is. If they were to gradually introduce you and like really handhold me into it so I got good at it, then like I could see that being something. So I think they could do something similar to the way they do with Monster Hunter. It is interesting because in an open world environment like that, like it makes you wonder, like, are they going to do more like Destiny where you don't have just like a full open world that takes 2 hours to go from point A to point B to get through, right?
Sure.
So is it going to be more like Destiny where it's like, hey, here's a biome and you're going to be dumped in with your friends and whatnot, and you're going to play through this biome? And that's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
But I do think, going back to your point, though, I do think that this very much is like Sony wants to have a games as a service that keeps people coming because of this one thing, keeps them involved in this one thing. And I think that's totally fine.
Because we know, I mean, earlier this year, Naughty Dog announced that they're working on, or they kind of like tease a little bit, like they're working on a multiplayer project in the world of The Last of Us. So I assume that's going to be online only. They didn't necessarily say if it's going to be online only, or multiplayer only, but I mean, I think it probably makes sense that they're going to start kind of slowly putting, their franchises, the ones that make sense.
Yeah.
And so friend of the show, Kayla in the chat. Hey, Kayla, how you doing? She says, I think it would be good depending on what angle they come from. Example, what kind of gameplay, things like that. Yeah, I think those are really important questions. Like,
Yeah.
is this going to be like, I think the Monster Hunter analogy makes sense. I think they would probably spin it a little bit and make it probably like a little more story driven and a little more not as rote in a way.
Mm.
That's dismissive of Monster Hunter, but I could see a world in which like there's like a half PvE, half PvP kind of world where like you can fight other, because like Horizon's very tribal. Like there's a lot of the different
Like you
tribes. Like
start the game off and you start in a tribe. Like
maybe you
pick
pick
your
a tribe and you can do like PvP or fight big thunder jaws or whatever. But here's a thing that I think is interesting is that unless they put it in a new part of the world that we've never been to before, we know because we've experienced as Aloy, one person can take down anything in this world.
Yeah.
So for it to be a co-op game, they would have to either introduce more like bigger robo dinos. They'd have to make us weaker. I don't know what it would have to be, but
We're going back in time, baby.
ooh, to the beginning.
Pre-Aloy. We go back. It doesn't have to be in the beginning. We could go back where we end up in a situation where it's like you're getting like early years of like the tribes, right? The tribes are all built out. This is
Sure.
100 years before Aloy. My thing is, this is what I've always said. Look, this is the same team that made fucking Killzone, right?
Yeah.
Give me a game set during the apocalypse. Like, give me that game. Let me be a soldier fighting the
Like
rise. Like, we know we're gonna lose. You know the eventuality is you're gonna lose, but like, could you imagine being able to like you're not using these instruments of war that Aloy
like
uses?
you're like a little rebel outfit trying to take down Ted Faro, destroying the world with his monster robots. That's
Yeah,
actually kind
I
of a
fuck
fucking
with
cool
that.
idea.
I fuck with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think the last thing I want to touch on is just the comment about the change in art direction. That's I think the one thing that throws me the most
Sure.
is I just don't. What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? Like, is it much more cartoony? Is it just like, yeah, I'd be interested to see what that means. And if by the time we see this in a revealed capacity, will the art style have changed? I kind of feel like it won't. I feel like it'll probably stick
Or
with.
what if what if it's just a shittily worded, like like the rumor is, and the rumor, as you know, we all grew up playing telephone, comes down a couple times, changes up. What if it's not a change in art direction? What if it's just a change in like it's gonna look the same, but instead of it being third person, you're now FPS.
Ooh, yeah, like a change in gameplay style.
Yeah, so I mean, you
Maybe.
can still do it. Like, I mean, Dying Light's, I think, like a great example of how you can still do parkour really well in a first person.
Or maybe they go the Skyrim Fallout route where you can pick first person or third person.
Dude, that'd be dope as shit.
Maybe.
Because let's be
Kayla,
honest, this games suck when you play in third person. You can only play those in first person.
I always play in third person, actually.
Really? How?
Yeah. I like seeing my character.
See, I think like factions, like the Last of Us factions, could work in an open world if you did it like the Division, right?
Yeah.
That works for me. This makes no sense. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but
Yeah. Kayla, another question. Good question. Well, do you think it's going to be free to play or pay? Do you think maybe a DLC? I don't think it would be a DLC situation personally, but I think I'm super interested to see if The Last of Us Factions releases as a full $60-$70 title, or if they go the free to play route and monetize it within the game. Like, I think depending on how The Last of Us does it, I would be willing to bet, though, if I were to put money on it, I would say this and The Last of Us Factions are full priced games, and you buy in up front instead of it being, I'm sure they're still going to monetize it somehow within. But I would think that this is probably going to be a full.
Is it bad of me that I'm like, please don't be free to play. Please don't be free to play. Please don't be free to play, because
I don't think it's bad of you. I think you and I, we don't play a ton of multiplayer games. Fair. And I think, your Overwatch 2s, your Apexes. Like it seems, I mean, Kayla would know. Kayla, as she says here, first person is the best. She plays a bunch of those. Like she's a big Overwatch, she's a big Apex fan. Those games seem to have figured it out, whereas a lot of the free to play games I've played haven't figured it out. Where a lot of the time I hit those kind of pain points of whether the monetization is like holding me back or making it feel like I don't want to necessarily buy in. So just kind of, I think it'll kind of depend on how they would do that monetization of it. But
that's fair.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I was talking to Sid. She's a big DBD girl now. That's her like favorite game of all time, apparently. And I was like, look, when this game still, if you don't have like, you can get on Game Pass, and I think you can get on PlayStation Plus maybe. But like before that, you would have to pay like 30, 40, 50 bucks to play this game. And then you get like 4 characters and like 4 killers. And then there's now like $3,000 worth of shit. And like, that doesn't fly with me.
Yeah, no way.
That fucking sucks.
Yeah. But like looking at like Fortnite as an example, that they make it to where really all you pay for is, and Kayla, correct me if I'm wrong, because you've played more Fortnite than me. But you really only pay for like different characters so you look different. Like you don't pay anything to be better at the game or get more like
no, and that's how DBD is.
Yeah. So I would assume that if they monetize it, they go that route where you can make it to where yeah, that's the word. I kept like stumbling through my words because I was trying to find the word cosmetic. I would be surprised if they do anything like on the pay to win side of like that some yeah. She says yes, you only pay for flare items in Fortnite, right? So I would assume they might go that route. But because I feel like PlayStation first party compared to Xbox, where a lot of the games that everything that they make first party when they make them is on Game Pass. PlayStation, they're going to charge $70, and they've said before, like we couldn't afford to go the Game Pass route. So that's also kind of part of the why that I think that this is going to be like a full paid title, because of the way that PlayStation, their business model seems to be, we're going to charge you $70 or whatever the fair price is. Sometimes it's 40 like Stray, sometimes it's 20 like Inscryption. Whatever that price is, we're going to charge you for it. But they seem to be down that. But I don't know. We'll see. I assume we probably won't hear about this for at least a year, I would think. Maybe we get some sort of like a teaser next year, but I think since this was just like a job posting, we probably don't hear about this for a while. We'll probably get like a teaser. Well, since we just got the Burning Shores DLC announcement, we actually probably won't see any other Horizon for a while.
I doubt we'll see anything until probably 2024.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet is 2024. Yeah. Well, something we are going to see in 2023 came in supposedly is Spider-Man 2. I'm pulling directly from the PlayStation blog. The year's end is over the horizon, which means 2023 is about to begin. While 2022 has gone out with a God-sized bang, thanks to God of War Ragnarok, that doesn't mean 2023 has nothing in store. The coming year is huge for PlayStation, they write, stacked with a lineup of exciting releases. Whether you've been looking forward to the release of the ultra-customizable DualSense Edge controller, which I completely forgot was a thing, with like their like pro controller, virtual reality adventures with PlayStation VR 2, count me out. Fantastical new IPs like Forspoken, count me out. Or sequels to iconic titles like Marvel Spider-Man 2, count me in.
There you go.
This year has something for you. While there's a ton coming to PlayStation 2023, this article aims to highlight a handful of the biggest things announced for 2023. So I only pulled the Marvel Spider-Man 2 part from this. So if you're interested in the other things that I just mentioned, go to the PlayStation blog and read it. But what they write about Marvel Spider-Man 2. Speaking of Marvel Spider-Man 2, let's kick things off with some exciting news from developer Insomniac Games, confirming the release window for the web-slinging sequel, Marvel Spider-Man 2, launching on PS5 in fall of 2023. Following the events of Marvel Spider-Man and Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, the Spider duo of Peter Parker and Miles Morales are back in the next blockbuster action chapter of the Marvel Spider-Man series. Much is still to be revealed about the game, and going off the quality of the past 2 titles, we're bound to be in for a fantastic new original Spider-Man adventure. Cayman. The wording of this interests me. The spider duo of Peter Parker and Miles Morales are back in the next blockbuster action chapter of Marvel Spider-Man series. Do you think we're going to play as both of them? Do you think it's going to be like a flip-flop situation
Yes,
in this game?
100%.
Do you think it's going to be where you get to choose who you play as, or it's going to be scripted like it was in the first game, where like there's like one chapter or a couple chapters as Miles, a couple chapters as MJ, but just like more evened out? We're like, what do you think that's going to look like?
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh, so you can pick who are at any point in the game.
You're going to have missions for both that are going to be scripted story moments, and they're going to coincide. You're going to have moments, I have a feeling, where you'll be playing as one of the Spider-Men and
Spider Boys,
the Spider Boys. And you'll probably be able to have moments where both are on screen at the same time. Like you could be like basically having like an AI companion.
Sure.
But I definitely think that it's going to be a drop in, drop out. Like in my head, the way that I picture this is like Grand Theft Auto 5, where it's like, oh, I'm playing as Peter. They're like, hey, you know, it'd be fun right now. Like, let me switch over to Miles, see what he's up to, and then maybe go do one of his missions. So you drop in and then you pop up, and you're now Miles, and you're hanging out in, you're hanging out with. He's from the Bronx, right?
Bronx,
Peter's in Queens. I know Peter's from the Queens.
Peter's from Queens. The Queens. Yep, Peter's from the Queens.
The Queens. Sydney's watching The Crown right now. I'm just thinking all about the Queen.
The Queen, yeah.
That fucking bitch.
I think I wanted to say Harlem. Let me look. Miles Morales.
Oh, might be Harlem.
Character. Where he from?
since
I'm writing in broken English, apparently. Brooklyn. Okay, he's in Brooklyn. You're
Brooklyn. Okay.
Actually, no, I don't think he's in Brooklyn, but.
So either way, so I think you'll be able to like drop in, and it'll be like one of those where like, boom, you drop in your Miles, and you're like, oh shit, I'm in the middle of a crime in progress, and then you just pick up and go. Like that makes sense, and then each one of them will have their own story missions, and then you'll probably have missions where you can choose one or the other, and you guys are playing side by side. Now the question is, it's like, how do you roll into, or like I think that you're about to say, what if it's co-op?
Do we think there's a chance that you and I can play together?
I don't think so.
That's too big.
That's way too big.
If you can play as both characters, that would be a tall order to be able to play as them both with a friend.
Dude, that'd be so fucking cool though.
But that would be so cool.
Dude.
Like I've said it if I've said it once, I've said it a million times, Cayman. I don't love a multiplayer game. I'm not opposed to them. I just don't often choose multiplayer. If I could play Spider-Man with a buddy like you, Cayman,
like you, Patrick.
Oh my goodness. You might be a vet of the War on Christmas, but at least you'd be my Spider Boy with me.
Yeah, I know. I like that's kind of what I expect. But I think, and to your point, the fall 2023, obviously any single date, I'm always to give that shit 50-50 chance for it to actually happen. But I don't know. It's interesting. I guess have they announced if Spider-Man 2 will be also coming out to PS4, or is it specifically just PS5?
I believe they have said this is PS5 only.
Okay.
Yeah, so Marvel Spider-Man 2 launches on PS5 in fall 2023 is all they say in the blog. Now, maybe there's a little asterisk somewhere and they say PS4 too, but I think they've said that this is a next gen only.
So the question is, I guess for me, is did they rebuild New York from scratch? Why would you? Like, why would you rebuild New York from scratch?
What makes you think they would rebuild New York from scratch?
Well, I mean,
I'm not following your
if you're building this specifically for the PlayStation 5 and you want to be bigger, you want to be better, do you rebuild the entire thing in a brand new engine?
No, I don't. I don't know enough about game development to be certain of this, but I don't think that they would have to rebuild it for it to only be on PS5. I think copy paste save as PS5 it is fine. No, just kidding. No, I think the way it works, from what I understand of game development, which isn't a lot, they would just build it like powerful enough and strong enough to where this thing's not going to run on PS4, so we don't need to like release it on PS4. But I could be so far wrong on this. But I don't know.
Like if you still have the bones there, right? If you still have the bones of the city, presumably that's going to be the hardest thing to do is build New York from scratch. So like
Sure.
if you can avoid that, and a lot of this is like we're building interiors now and like level designs in the interiors, and we're just sprucing up at the outdoors. Yeah, I think fall 2023 is actually pretty realistic. Like I
Yeah,
definitely think
yeah.
that gives you about 3 years between, because what Miles Morales came out in, no, like it came out in 2021. So you got 2 years from it, but you got 4 years or 5 years actually off of Spider-Man, because that was 2018. Came out in March of 2018, I think.
Miles
So,
Morales was 2020, November 2020.
oh no shit. Okay, so you have
Mhm.
3 years. So yeah, you've got. So yeah, no, I think you like that gives them way more than enough time to be able to really nail down. And sure, the pandemic did not help anything, but I definitely think that gives them enough time to be able to like get this up and running. And I think coming off the heels of like all of these weird delays and pushbacks and all this stuff happening in the industry, I don't think Sony would come out and give a definitive window unless
Sure.
they were absolutely sure. Like
Sure.
we feel very confident this is coming now, because I mean, how many months did we get before they announced that the actual release date of God of War? Like 3 or 4 months, 4 months maybe.
Yeah, I
They
don't
gave us a
remember.
window. They just said, they kept saying fall. It's gonna be fall, and then like 4 months before they were like, "This is the date. This is locked in. This
Yeah.
is not changing."
Yeah, because there
And
there
that
was
game came
they
out
delayed it
perfect.
a few times. Like they did some delays, but they never gave us a. I don't think they gave us a date and then delayed it. I think they just delayed it before we ever got a date.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think in this particular situation, like Sony feels confident enough, because that's been one of the biggest gripes the last few years. It's just people complaining about the fact that like, don't fucking give us even a window anymore.
yeah,
You get our hopes up, and then it's like, oh fuck, I guess I'm waiting for next year. Huh,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Because I mean, looking at next year, like there's next year's a packed year for video games,
Yeah.
like across the industry, not just for PlayStation. Like there's a bunch of shit coming out next year, and by shit I mean gold. Like there's a lot of like new Zelda, like this Starfield for Xbox. Like there's a
Diablo
bunch of
4,
Diablo 4. Like
Final
the
Fantasy
list,
16.
it's
Like,
massive.
yeah.
And so part of me is like this could be the like cherry on top for a huge year for PlayStation. But also, it is such a big year that like they might be able to get away with pushing it to 2024. In fact, I think they probably could get away with pushing it to
Yeah.
2024 and it not look like Microsoft's year this year, which was nothing. Like, so I don't know. We'll see. But I am confident. I'm leaning toward I expect this to come in 2023 versus I expect this to be delayed. But we'll see.
See, I have a feeling something else is going to be pushed to 2024. Segue.
There it is. I mean, this is going to be being pushed to 2029.
Oh yeah, this shit ain't coming out ever.
So this is we're in rumor territory. We're in the rumor mill here. George Foster the gamer is who I'm pulling from. Old George. Apparently, there are rumors that The Last of Us Part 3 is in development and it's being led by one Neil Druckmann, who has led the previous 2 games. The first one being in conjunction with Bruce Straley. But Last of Us Part 3 is reportedly already in development at Naughty Dog and will be the next game from director Neil Druckmann after Last of Us Factions. Although The Last of Us Part 2's release wasn't that long ago, rumors have been swirling for some time about what Naughty Dog is up to next. We already know about the Factions sequel that's seemingly coming in 2023, but it's also been suggested that the studio is working on a brand new IP, one that's seemingly fantasy themed. It's now also being reported that the team is also working on, can you use also one more time, George? The Last of Us Part 3. This report, that was rude. I'm sorry, George. This report comes courtesy of Twitter user Viewer Anon. Oh boy. He's got Anon in his title. What have you done, the gamer? I can't believe I read this story. Who has previously leaked that Ashley Johnson would be playing Ellie's mother on HBO's adaptation of The Last of Us. Viewer Anon also previously leaked the existence of Crash Bandicoot 4. So they seem to have a pretty accurate track record when it comes to leaks. So, Cayman, my question to you is this.
Mhm.
Do we think this game is real? Is my first question.
Mm-hmm.
My second question is, like, of course they're making a Last of Us, right?
Wait, isn't that the same question?
It is. It's a statement version of my question.
Here, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you actually think that Factions is coming out in 2023?
I do.
Yeah? When? That's probably a good question.
Not.
It is.
I do not. I think it'll be early 2024.
Okay, so this is my thought process. I think that yes, this game is this game is in production. There's no question about it. This game is in production. I think realistically, Factions releases probably February of 2024.
Yeah.
And we get Last of Us Part 3 in February, in like November. Let's say November of 2024. 2024. No.
Okay.
I think we prime it up because I also think what we have to take into consideration is if they're going to be doing the TV series. One of the big things I think we've had conversations about this in particular is that if they do 3 seasons, each season is going to be based on the show. In my head, you want to have the story of you want to have The Last of Us Part 3 out before that season drops.
Sure.
So you can establish canon first and you already have something. You don't want to spoil the game
right
by having the TV show do it for you. That's
George Martin.
Like that, yeah. Then you run into that shit, and that fucking blows. We don't want that. We've learned our lesson. HBO has learned their fucking lesson.
I hope so.
Yeah. So I don't think that. So that's why. And I think if you look at like production cycles, like I don't see why this game couldn't drop at the end of 2024. I could genuinely think like there's a chance that it could. Because The Last of Us Part 2 came out in 2020. That gives them 4 years.
But I don't know. I'm torn because it might be comparing apples to oranges, which why can't we compare them both? They're both fruit. But 2013 Last of Us Part 1 on PS3, 2020 Last of Us Part 2 on PS4, new generation, built from the ground up, like looked totally different than PS3. But in the meantime, they did release the remaster of Part 1. And an Uncharted story somewhere in there. A couple of them, they did 4 and they did Lost Legacy in there. So I guess, if you're not, as I'm kind of talking through this out loud and thinking through this, I guess if you're not doing these other projects, 4 years, I guess, could be doable. And I would think the tech jump from 3 to 4 is a lot bigger than the tech jump from 4 to 5.
And as well as I do, they already had a story done.
Oh, well, they reported
years in advance.
Yeah,
before Part 2 even launched, they knew what Part 3 was going to be.
Probably. So in August of 2021, if I'm not mistaken, someone reported about Naughty Dog saying they had a story in mind for The Last of Us Part 3, but they weren't planning on making it. Which when that story dropped, I'm like, oh, okay, so we're gonna get Last of Us Part 3 in like 6 or 7 years. Because like an IP this big, especially if the show hits, you're going to keep making these games. Right?
So, okay. Yeah. Oh, no, 100%. And that's why I don't think like there was a rumor that came out a little bit ago that was like they're rebooting Uncharted. And I was like, I don't think that that's accurate. Like that seems way more far-fetched that they're going to reboot Uncharted that they are making a part 2 for The Last of Us. Like that doesn't hit
part
for
3.
Me. Or sorry, part 3. Yeah. Doesn't hit for me. I think the way that this works in my head, you can prime up by doing a faction style, like Factions 2 or whatever the fuck they want to call it. And you can have like this world, games as a service, whatever, and you start the year off like that. Then you just hammer drop this massive game that feeds into a different part. And I think that you built up a lot with it. You got the TV show going. I think it works. I mean, maybe not with the Factions. I guess it depends on how big Factions is. And like, is this like a standalone game or is this more of like just go fuck around and do whatever? I don't even know what the game's going to look like. So that's a good question. My thing is there's always a theme, right? So like part 1, like the theme to me at least was like redemption.
Sure.
Part 2 is all about revenge. So like what is the theme for part 3? Like when I've been kind of thinking about this in my head, and I'm like, I like the idea that Abby shows up or Nev. Is it Nev? It's Nev, right?
Lev.
Lev shows up and is like, Abby's in trouble. You're the only person I can come to. And there's like a moment where it's like, shit. Like
Sure.
Ellie has like built a life out now and she's fine.
Obviously, we're
everything's-
spoiling The Last of Us Part 2, by the way.
Oh shit, sorry.
No, that's
game's
fine.
been
Just
out long enough.
Yeah,
Play it. But I think like, and then we have a situation where it's like, fuck. So now we have the redemption arc for Ellie, where she kind of
Sure.
had it at the end a little bit, but now it's like, what would Joel do?
Yeah, no, I think redemption makes sense here, because I wouldn't necessarily say that the first one is about redemption as much as it is about like learning to love again, and like learning to that like the world doesn't have to be a terrible place. I mean, even though some of the decisions that are made kind of hammer home that it is, but
so what do you think? Like what does The Last of Us Part 3 look like for you?
Well, I mean, them calling it a part 3 obviously means that this is a continuation of Ellie and Abby's story. Because they wouldn't call it part 3 if it wasn't. That was the whole thing with part 2, is like, this is just a continuation of the story. We're not, this isn't a sequel as much as it is like just more. And so, yeah, I think my gut tells me it kind of might mirror the first game, but from Ellie's perspective. Ellie is now Joel. Like, Ellie has done things that she isn't able to forgive herself for, and I don't think it would be as much of a mirror as episode 7 is to episode 4 of Star Wars, where like she's taking a small boy across the country. Like, I don't think it'd be that, but I think, and maybe that kind of way of her kind of forgiving, like learning to forgive herself and love again, is by way of helping Abby or Lev or whatever. But yeah, I think it would again center around Ellie, and I think it would definitely be kind of her version of Joel's story from part 1, and get her back to that place of being able to love again and whatnot. But I don't know. They're going to introduce a bunch of new shit too. Like, there's going to be a whole bunch of new characters, I'm sure, that we're going to like and want to have games about. But
well, and they can distinctly remember them like talking about how, or maybe this was just like a rumor, but it was like, yeah, we want to do like Naughty Dog's looking to do like an open world game. So then the question is like, is the open world game factions, or do you have an open world game in part 3?
I mean, there are a few sections in part 2 that are about as open world as Naughty Dog has ever done.
Yeah, that's fair.
Specifically like the beginning of Seattle.
Yeah.
Like huge map.
Massive.
So yeah, I don't know. I will say, obviously they're great at what they do, and I'm sure I'll love whatever they do. The open world parts of Uncharted 4 and Last of Us Part 2 specifically are my least favorite things that Naughty Dog has done in a long time. Like, I always prefer their like sleeker, tighter, and like the maps that like have size still are like, they're good and I like them. But when it's really big and the whole thing is like just explore this massive open area, I haven't. More so in Uncharted 4. I do think that they did a lot better of a job in Last of Us 2 than the part in Uncharted 4.
It's interesting.
But, which, it's the next game. So of course, like, I would hope that they got better.
See, I don't know if I agree with you there.
That you thought they did it better with Uncharted?
Yeah, I think because the way that The Last of Us works, with it being like the stakes are so high all the time.
Oh, sure. Like,
it made my enjoyment of that less, because it didn't feel like in Uncharted 4, I never felt like I'm running out of supplies. And I can't go. And like, I felt like in The Last of Us Part 2, I was like, in these big open areas, I was like, I know if I go explore, I'm going to find some stuff. But can I even make it to finding that stuff? And is the risk and reward even worth it? So it like really put me in a corner where I'm like, do I want to explore and potentially lose out on the finite amount of supplies I have? Whereas like Uncharted, I was like, let's shoot everything, fuck everything up. Let's go, Nathan Drake.
Yeah.
White Man Massacre. Yeah. Like, that's how it felt,
Spoken like a true War on Christmas vet.
That's I think that's the dynamic between both games. And I think that you're right, though. Like, Naughty Dog excels more when everything is more focused.
Yeah.
I don't want to say narrow or more linear, but when the game is driving you from point A to point B, that feeling of desperation feels better like that than just feeling like, I don't know if I need to do this or go there or do that. And then now I'm just feeling a lot of anxiety.
Sure.
And I don't think the game's trying to make me feel anxious, but we're just here right now.
Yeah, it would definitely be, they would have to adjust the tone, I think, of the game if it's open world, and probably curate those like tighter experiences within the open world.
So maybe we end up like, maybe The Last of Us Part 3 cuts forward, 20 years. We get a 40-year-old Ellie, but at the same time, they're like the clickers, they're not like themselves anymore. It's fewer far between, or they're more congregated in certain areas. So like think of like 28 days or like 28 weeks later, right? They played this dynamic where it was, or at the end of 28 days where it was like, at a certain point, they starve because they're hungry and there's no food left, so they die, right? So, like, what if that's the same thing where it's like the clickers no longer just roam around freely everywhere you go? They're now only in certain areas, and then like society's building itself back up around that. And like that, to me, that works. Like, I think that could give more emphasis for a more open area. Then you're not as stressed because you're constantly getting into conflict, because you're always like, there's always shit somewhere. Like, when you go in, like, hey, shit's gonna get real, but there's gold, there's gold here, right?
Yeah. I would also, to jump away from the open world part of the discussion for a second, to back to like predictions or like what we think might come of this game.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the driving force of this game, if we jump in the future, let's say we jump 15, 20 years in the future, that there is now, for however it is, there is now hope for a cure again. Like whether it's they found another scientist or whatever it is, like I could see that being a driving force of the game. Like Ellie gets a second chance, essentially. Like she gets to be in control this time. And then seeing her, now that it's her decision, what's she gonna do? Like it's the decision's always been made for her, but that'd be interesting to see.
Now
her.
She's a parent.
And yeah, and like, is she gonna? That could be. I'd like to see what they do with that. That could be cool.
And I think that that's a good bookend if they do something like that.
Yeah,
like that's a really good way to round everything off, where you are bringing elements from 1 and you're bringing it back to 3. And I really could see a moment in which like she's making the decision and like she feels like Joel's presence, like walk up, put his hand on her shoulder and is like, hey, it's okay, I trust you, or some shit like that. And then my heart just fucking burst out of my chest, and
it pops some of those lights that are draped across
my
your nipples right now.
Just like wherever my nipples are on this. I got a belly button. I don't think they put nipples on here, man.
They're hidden.
Look at this. Look at this belly button though.
Oh God. Oh, it's terrible. We're gonna get shadow banned from Twitch for that.
We probably will.
Well,
there's women in hot tubs right now. And then I'm over here just rubbing my fake skin.
Rubbing your fake skin. Oh boy. Well, folks at home, let us know what you think about what do you want from Last of Us Part 3? I know there are some people in our audience that like this game a lot too. So let us know what you think. Maybe we'll read a few on next week's show. We'll see. Cayman.
Yes, sir.
Why don't we close it out?
Yes, sir.
With a little update of the calendar. I didn't pull too much this week, but I got a little bit. So we got some PlayStation Plus extras that are now available on PlayStation. WWE 2K22. How about that, Kevin?
Sure.
How about that? And actually, let me editorialize myself and say maybe these aren't available right now, but they're coming in December if they're not available right now. There's sometime in December. Far Cry 5, New Dawn, and Primal. A game called Mortal Shell.
That's like a Dark Souls game.
Okay. Judgment, which is a game that I would like to play at some point.
What's next?
Next is Shadow of Mordor.
You fucking
and Shadow of War.
You fucking piece of shit.
I got him. No, Yakuza Like a Dragon and Yakuza 6. Ichiban coming to put me in an early grave since
that shit was game of the year, bro. That's game of the year. It's a game of the year.
Maybe. Shadow Mordor, Shadow of War, The Pedestrian, Evil Genius 2, Adventure Time, Pirates of Ashiridian. Game of the year, Ben 10 Power Trip.
Yes.
Gigantosaurus. They're really scraping the barrel here. Pillars of Eternity 2, Worms, WMD. You know about WMDs, don't you, Gaiman?
Oh, brother, you don't even want to know what Santa Claus has coming on Christmas this year, baby.
And finally, Escapists 2, brother. That's the PlayStation Plus Extra catalog editions. And then they also announced, they being Capcom, that Resident Evil Village's VR mode, if you're a VR person, is releasing for free as DLC February 22.
Man, there's gonna be like, I just realized that this joke does not play for an audio only audience.
No, it certainly doesn't, Cayman.
It does.
But as I said earlier, you didn't have your headphones in, so you didn't hear me say this. But so I'm going to repeat it. Every single week on podcast services, if you scroll down into the info of the podcast episode, I got time codes, I got descriptions, I got a link to this week's YouTube, the full video on YouTube, because I don't know that I've mentioned this on air. I've mentioned it on our socials. I've now started clipping out each clip into its own YouTube clip, so that I can hopefully find some people, maybe they're just searching for The Last of Us Part 3 information, and they can hear us talk about it here right now. But I always link to the full version of the episode on YouTube. So click it, and so you can see this just defamation that Cayman is inflicting on all of us. Oh God. Cayman, I think it's time to put you down.
Yeah,
in the show.
It's about time.
It's about time.
It's about fucking time, brother.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks to the sweet people in our sweet live chat on twitch.tv/SpotlightGamesPod. Make sure you follow us there so that you're notified when we go live, so you can be part of the conversation. You can follow us on Twitter at SpotGamesPod. You can follow us everywhere else at SpotlightGamesPod. Cayman, where can they follow you? Where can they follow Save Trash Cinema?
You can follow me at Kid Cayman on Twitter. And you can follow Save Trash Cinema at Save Trash Cinema everywhere, because no one wanted that name.
No one
wanted it. And honestly, after this week's episode, I'm not sure if I do anymore.
Oh boy. All right. Well, give us a rating, give us a review. And as I said last week, stay blessed, stay not stressed, and take your shirt off. And if you came in, take your skin off, apparently. Oh God, I hate everything.